Teacher Talking Sports, what it does, what it do, how we live. And while we have 1 week remaining in the NFL regular season, most fantasy football seasons ended yesterday. So in this video, I'm going to name my all mostly went undrafted 2023 fantasy football team. How do I decide if a guy mostly went undrafted? Well, I take the website Fantasy Pros, which takes the consensus draft rankings, average draft positions of each player. If it was over 180, he was eligible to be included. Why 180? Because in a 12-person, 15-round draft, 180 players are selected. Now notice I said mostly went undrafted. I realize some fantasy drafts are larger, where more people are selected. Sometimes people take a reach on a guy ahead of their average draft position, but nonetheless, whether they went undrafted or drafted late, they were very valuable to their owners. Last week, I took a look at the all disappointment fantasy football team. I'll include that in the description, but let's get into it. I'll name one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex, so either running back, wide receiver, or tight end. Let's start with the quarterback. Second overall pick in the 2023 draft, C.J. Stroud. He's averaging 18.2 points per game, and when I say average points per game, I'm taking ESPN standard PPR leagues. That is quarterback 11. Some of the guys ahead of him include Kyler Murray, who hasn't even played half the games, Kirk Cousins, who has been out for some time, and Joe Flacco, who was on the couch for the first 65% of the season. But Stroud, in 14 games, 3,844 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. His 1.1% interception percentage is the lowest in the NFL. Stroud has 7 multi-passing touchdown games, including 5 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Has a total of 6 games with over 300 yards passing. Stroud, probably the favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year, although there's a wide receiver I'm going to name later who maybe will give him a run for his money. First running back, Kyren Williams of the Rams, a 5th-round pick in 2022. Widely expected Cam Akers would get become the bell cow back for the Rams this season. Struggled in week 1, was benched. Akers eventually traded. Kyren Williams took over, and man, has he completely dominated at the position, even with missing 4 games. He's second in the NFL with 1,144 rushing yards. His 21.3 points per game are the second highest for a running back, only behind Christian McCaffrey. He has a total of 6 games with over 100 rushing yards, 3 games with multi-touchdowns, has a rushing touchdown in 8 of his 12 games, also has at least 2 catches in 9 of his 12 games, total of 15 touchdowns altogether on the year. His 95.3 rushing yards per game lead the NFL. Next, it was widely assumed the Browns would struggle after Nick Chubb went down with a serious injury. But Jerome Ford has stepped in and performed admirably. Another 5th-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Ford is averaging 12.9 points per game, which is running back 24. But since he hasn't missed a game, he's actually is the 15th most total points at the running back position. 807 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns, but also has done a ton of damage as a receiver. 42 catches with 5 touchdowns. Ford has had 2 games where he's gone over 100 yards rushing. He has at least 2 receptions in 14 of his last 15, 12 of his last 15 games, but at least 1 in every one of those games. Coming off championship game where if you had him in your championship game in fantasy football, he had 2 receiving touchdowns against the New York Jets. Jerome Ford has been quite the player for the Browns minus Nick Chubb. Wide receiver, probably the MVP of the all mostly one undrafted team. That is Puka Nacua, a 5th round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And again, a guy who maybe, along with Stroud, two favorites for Offensive Rookie of the Year. But man, what a rookie season he's having. His 17.8 points per game are wide receiver 7. It's only because his touchdown total isn't extremely high. He's got 5, but man, 101 catches for 1,445 yards. Incredible. Nakua has 7 games with over 100 yards receiving. He's had no less than 3 catches in every single game this season, but altogether has 11 games of his 16 with at least 5 catches. He's even done a little damage with his feet, totaling 89 rushing yards on the season. Puka Nakua, what an incredible rookie season he's having. One of the best ever for a rookie receiver. Another rookie receiver who unfortunately has been hurt, hasn't played since December 3rd. That is Tank Dell in 11 games, although you could really say 10 because he got hurt early in that Denver game. 47 catches, 709 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. His 15 points per game rank him wide receiver 19. Now, guys like Nico Collins and Rashee Rice were just inside the first 180 picks, thus were ineligible. But, excuse me, Tank Dell, again, awesome rookie season. Had 3 games with over 100 yards receiving. Had scored a touchdown in 6 of his 11 games. Had a total of 6 of 11 games with at least 5 catches. Had been really coming on in his last 4 full games. Had at least 1 receiving touchdown. Tight end Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals, a second-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. McBride is averaging 10.6 points per game, which puts him at tight end 9, although that has been rising. Much like Nakua, but to a greater extent. He would be higher if it wasn't for a somewhat lack of touchdowns, as he only has 2 on the season. But still, 78 catches for 791 receiving yards. Not many tight ends can duplicate that. He had 2 games with over 100 yards receiving. He even had 2 games of 10 catches. But has at least 2 catches in 14 of his 16 games. And again, has been playing a lot more and has been well more productive. If we count his last 9 games, he has 10, 3, 8, 5, 7, 8, 10, 6, 6 catches. Trey McBride is going to be one of the first tight ends taken in fantasy football in 2024. And my flex will go to a running back. That is Gus the Bus from my alma mater of Rutgers. Gus Edwards of the Baltimore Ravens. His 11.5 points per game are running back 32, although he is running back 22 in total points due to not missing a game. For the season, 762 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns. Doesn't do much damage as a receiver, but he has at least 1 rushing touchdown in 9 of his 16 games. He actually had a 4-game stretch from October 29th to November 16th where he had 8 rushing touchdowns. So again, Gus Edwards was a guy who, if the Ravens were near the goal line, you could almost ensure that he was going to score a touchdown. He also had a touchdown for his fantasy owners in both championship semifinals and championship finals. So there you have it. That is my all mostly went undrafted fantasy football team. Really enjoyed doing this article. Some other guys I considered at other positions. Quarterback, Matthew Stafford, Sam Howell, though he kind of fell off towards the end. Running back, we had Zach Moss. He was actually on my mid-season team. I did a mid-season one of these. He was included. And tight ends, Jake Ferguson and Taysom Hill. Again, wasn't too many wide receivers. I mean, I guess like a Curtis Samuel, but not many undrafted wide receivers who became viable fantasy stars. But let me know in the comments who were some of your best pickups this season in fantasy football. fun season. Can't wait for next season. Some of these guys are going to be drafted early. You figure Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua could be first-round picks. And Trey McBride, maybe even the first tight end taken off the board. Probably top 3 or 4. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.